We're here at FedScoop's Security Transformation Summit with Randy Resnick, Director for the Zero Trust Portfolio Management Office within the Department of Defense's CIO office. Randy, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Wyatt. Thanks for the invite.
So I'd like to start with, if you could just give us your perspective on where your department for Zero Trust, your office, has probably made the greatest headway over just this past year, obviously with the release of the Defense Department's strategy and roadmap. But tell us a little bit about where you're feeling like you've made the greatest headway on Zero Trust.
So the Zero Trust Portfolio Office established itself basically in February 2022. So we've been in business 10 months, 11 months, less than a year. In that last year, my team and agency personnel from external, like from NSA and DISA, we all got together and we started thinking, how do we actually build? Where do we start in the Zero Trust journey? So what we were able to do is to define Zero Trust in a DOD sense, not based on a checklist, but based on outcomes. So coming from an understanding of how the adversary attacks DOD networks, why do Zero Trust? For the DOD, what we need to do is to stop the adversary from exploiting our systems and getting into our networks. And so the end game for Zero Trust for us was to frustrate, slow down, contain, or stop the adversary. So that was our North Star. And then from the North Star, we worked backwards. Using the 7-pillar model, which everybody is familiar with, that's been pretty much in existence since 2010. We built out the capabilities and the activities, as we call it, the steps, to actually not only define Zero Trust for the DoD, but then to define the elements that need to be placed in the network in order to create this effect that I just spoke about, meaning to stop, contain, frustrate, slow down the adversary's attempts when they do try to get in. And so we believe we established that sort of methodology. We encapsulated it in the strategy. We did write the strategy. I believe it was released last week or thereabouts on the 22nd, I think. And we've had tremendous reception on it. We've had over 20,000 downloads just from the DoD CIO library, which is off the charts. And we wrote an implementation plan for how to do that within the DoD to help out the services and the components and the DAFAs, meaning the agencies and defense facilities. And we believe that the establishment of what to do is clearly laid out there. We don't describe to them the solution, though. We don't say vendor names. We're saying we want to see this effect. We want to see these outcomes. Turns out that there's 91 outcomes for target being what we believe would stop or slow down the adversary. And to go beyond target, you can go to what we're calling advanced, which is for certain missions that have very special need to go way beyond target based on their threat model.
Really appreciate your lining that out, and that's a remarkable figure of how many downloads in just a matter of days.
Everybody is surprised in a good way.
That's a good thing. You mentioned the 7 primary pillars of Zero Trust around identity, devices, network, applications, data, et cetera. Which are getting the biggest investment priority right now at DoD, would you say? Because obviously you have to do them all, but there is some sequence of events. Would you fill us in a little on your priorities?
There is a sequence of events, but we treat all 7 pillars basically the same in terms of priority. That being said, there are certain pillars that, due to availability of solutions that are already out there in the vendor community, vendor space, the user pillar, the device pillar, and the data pillar are the pillars that are going to likely be worked first. Not because the technology is there, just as I said, but also because in a way they're foundational. They're almost like the trunk of a tree in order to get to the rest of the pillars. Meaning you have to have a accurate user inventory of who's allowed on your network. You need to have an accurate inventory of which devices you're allowing on the network, and obviously through ZT, not allowing any other device or user onto the network if they're not on your list, your good list. So you need fundamentally sources of truth in order to then take ZT to the next step. So you need to authorize and authenticate users, you need to authorize and authenticate devices, and then when it comes to the data, right now, data is what it is. But what we need to do in Zero Trust is get to a point where the data has meaning. In other words, really hard problem that we're facing right now is the data tagging and labeling aspect of it. What kind of data is this? So this way, we can do other pillars of Zero Trust like analytics on that data. It turns out that there is not a tagging and labeling standard in the DOD, and that's something that the Zero Trust Portfolio Office, working with CDAO and others in the Pentagon. This is our one of our top priorities to work in calendar 23.
And just any last message for the vendor community about what they should be paying attention to now that this plan is out?
So for the DOD, we're seeking and looking for the integration of multiple vendor solutions that overlay or map to the 91 activities that we are seeking to be instantiated onto DOD networks. The Portfolio Office within the strategy came out with 3 courses of action. The first one is laying down improvements on the existing networks, recapitalizing existing IT that's already on and in the networks, and then improving it based on what is required for Zero Trust. We call that the brownfield approach. We would need vendors to help there to fill in those gaps. The other 2 courses of action are cloud-based. So COA 2 is doing Zero Trust in commercial clouds. We're working right now with cloud vendors. Yesterday was just signed out the JWCC award. It's a really big story. So you can imagine that we would want to have Zero Trust in those clouds. So that's what we're trying to do right now, working with those cloud vendors and others to put Zero Trust in their clouds. What we're going to do this year is to pilot test, and red team those overlays in their clouds to see if they could resist a friendly cyber attack. And if they can, according to what we're seeking in terms of Zero Trust, those would likely be the design criteria that DoD CIO would want to see rolled into those clouds. But that's a future thing that we need to prove out this year. And then COA 3, the last COA, is just a private cloud. It's not just a private cloud, it's a built from the ground up DoD design, built, run, managed sort of cloud where it's not commercially run, but the government sort of runs it. And that could be both on-prem as well as at a data center. And those are the 3 options that we see right now. Any combination of the 3 would be open for the services and DAFAs and anybody else to implement within their service. And they have 5 years to do it. If you go cloud, you'd likely achieve Zero Trust, if we could prove ZT in the cloud, much earlier than 5 years. If you choose COA 1, you have 5 years to do it. But nevertheless, we're going to track all that as the Portfolio Office, and we'll help them get there to include, as necessary, the resources. If they need dollars in future years, we will be the biggest advocates with them to articulate that need to the department.
Well, it sounds like a tremendous amount of momentum suddenly catching on at the Department of Defense. So Randy Resnick, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Really appreciate you being here.
Really appreciate it.